This is the grade 11 exemplar paper for CAT paper 1, the practical exam from November 2020, and this is from the Department of Education for the Eastern Cape, and we are looking at question 4, which is the access question, the database one. So before we do this question, just a proviso or look some information. Remember, this paper was done in the year that we had COVID and the pandemic and that, and so just to be aware that when they set out the syllabus for the end of the year, I think they took out certain things out of the syllabus just to make sure that we could complete it. And I think one of the things they took out was reports and forms. You can double check that at the time, but there are no reports and forms in this question paper. So if you are back to the normal syllabus, you might want to do some extra examples to practice forms and reports. So just double check that when you are doing your revision. But we're going to do some tables and some queries in this example. Actually, there is a form here. Sorry, there is a form. There's no reports in this one. There is a form, correct. So just the form, the reports that we are missing, but you can do some extra examples on that. So we're going to open up the Wild Coast database, which I've got already, and just always double check. When you've opened it, there might be something over here saying enable editing. You want to make sure that you click on that before you make any changes, otherwise it won't save anything. So make sure that you've done that. And they want us to work in the bookings table. Make sure you work in the right table. So we want to work in the bookings table. So let's go to bookings info. So yeah, big bookings info table. So there we go. So we're going to open it up. I've opened it up in normal view, so the data sheet view, so we can see what it looks like. There's no data in it, but they do ask us to change the row height. Now, these two parts over here, we have to do in the data sheet view. So change the row height to 25. So there we can see I'm going to right click on a row and row height. There we go. So I'm going to change that to what number did they want? 25 points. So let's change that to 25 and click OK. So it's slightly wider, so you can see, more thicker, so type of thing. And then they want us to set the alternative row color to red and the background color to green. Now, what does that mean? Now, when we talk about the colors of the background, we're talking about the formatting over here. And I'm going to click on this little block here so we can see the datasheet formatting, and there you can see the words we are looking for. We are looking for the alternative row to be red and the background to be green. So alternative row must be red. So I'm going to click on alternative row and make that red, and the background must be green. So there we go. So we can see alternative rows. Lots of companies or places, they do their databases with different colors for different rows so that you can read it easily when you're moving your mouse across everything. Now you can see everything's green. That's because we don't have lots of data in here. If we had multiple rows of data, you'd see every second one would be red. Okay, but there we go. So we can see everything there. So we've changed that. Correct. Boom. Now we must go and change the input mask and like stuff about the data. So now we're going to go into the design view of my sheet. So make sure we save, any changes. Now they want us to go to the cell number and ensure that the user only insets a cell number. It must be 10 compulsory numbers and it must be that format. Now I'm laughing at this question because they've technically given us the answer already. So let's go to cell number. Boom, there we go. And we must go input mask. Now, if you remember from your exam paper, if you go right to the bottom, you'll see there's an input mask description that can help you. And we want a compulsory number, a digit. A digit 0 is a digit that is required or compulsory. If it was optional, we would use a 9. But a 0 means it's compulsory. So if we scroll back up to that question, they want it in that format, and because they used zeros, they've actually given me the answer. That is exactly how you want it to be. If it was optional letters or digits, then you would use 9s if they were, but in this case, they want them all to be compulsory. So my input mask is actually going to be exactly what that is. It's going to be 3 zeros followed by a dash, followed by 4 zeros, followed by another dash or space, and then 3 more zeros. So there we go. That's done. Ensure that the cell number must be filled in. So we must fill it in. So we're on cell number. That means the required must be set to yes. So required must be yes. Okay. Add a validation rule to the age field so that it accepts only visitors from the age 18 to 60. And a suitable message must be displayed. That's a validation rule. So let's go to age. Boom. And we must put a rule in. There are lots of ways to do it. You could say between 18 and 60. If you wanted to do something like that, you could say between 18 and 60. I think technically that's right. You can also say greater than equal to 18 and at the same time less than equal to 60. They should ideally say some word like inclusive. If they say they're going to include 18 and 60. Sometimes when we use in language, we say between, only from 16 to, when we say from that age, sometimes they don't always include the top 60. So I think that technically is viable. And they want a suitable message. So don't type in the word suitable message. Just say age must be between 18 and 60. Give a nice suitable message for the text. So the rule is what the rule is. The text is what is displayed if you violate that rule. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Change the deposit paid field to an appropriate data field type with 2 decimal places. So obviously some sort of number. Deposit paid, that's a money field, right? Okay, so deposit paid, have you paid your deposit? So that should not be short text. I can't use short text because I missed a long. I can use the long text. No, I can use short text. So we want to make it a currency. And they said they wanted 2 decimal places. So at the moment you can see there's that many decimal places. So we're going to set it to 2. Not that. We're going to just change it to 2 decimal places. Don't even need to do that form. Just not default value. So I'm in the wrong place completely. Where's decimal places? There. Decimal places there. Wrong place, Mr. Long. 2 decimal places. I saw the D for DE, so I thought that was decimal. So there's decimal places, 2 decimal places for currency. Okay, so that's the more appropriate data type. Add a drop-down list field, and we want to include these names. Well, we're not Port Elizabeth anymore, we're Aberga, but this is old paper. So we're going to use those fields in a drop-down list box for the hometown field. So for the hometown field, for that, how do we make that a drop-down list box? If you come here, you can see, okay, first save all our changes. If you click hometown, you've got to type it in. But if we want to make it a drop-down list box, which option is it? Well, we're going to have to go to the lookup Harry Potter, the lookup wizard. So go to the lookup wizard, and then this wizard will go through the different steps that we want. Yes, do you want to type in the lookup values from another table? No, we want to type them in, so I want that option. If they refer to another query, then you would click that option and follow the wizard there, and must type in our values. Now, I've just pasted it to make my life a little bit easier, but okay, it won't let me even paste it. But I'm moving that to the side so I can see. So we want Port Elizabeth as the one option. Now press down. Now we want to add East London as the other option. And then we want data, and then Queenstown. Queenstown, there we go. And then there's our 4 options. Go next. They don't tell me anything else about limiting it, so I'm not going to do any other features, but always read the question. They might say things like limited only to that list and stuff like that, or allow multiple values. Then you can click there, and we're going to finish our Harry Potter, wizard. And there we go. Now, you see it's changed back to short text, but if I go back over here, yes, let's save everything, and I click on hometown, you see now there's a drop down where I can select the option, and that's great. If they ever ask you to change the values, maybe you want to change the order of that, then when you click on hometown, go to the lookup tab, and there you can see that the different options, and you can always move or like rewrite those so that you can add new fields or move them around if there's already been made into a lookup wizard and you need to change it. So you can change it to a combo box or drop down list box there as well. So there we go. There's that one. And then set the email address so that it is always in lowercase. Okay, so if we come here and I type in the email address, and I can use capital letters and it's fine. Okay, but I'm going to press escape. I want to press escape because I don't want that right. We want to make sure that it's always lowercase. So on the email address, to make sure that it's always lowercase. On the format, we're not going to select any of these formats. We're just going to put in a less than symbol. That means that it's smaller case. Now, how do I know that? Well, I know this is an input mask, but if I go down to my input mask, it is something that is used as well there. You can see over here, the less than characters are converted to lowercase, uppercase characters are converted to uppercase. So although this is an input mask character sheet, you can use that for the particularly that one for the format, so that you can specify that it's always in lowercase or uppercase. So if I come here and save it, I don't know if it's going to work. Let's test it. If I type in small letters and I press shift and type in big letters, you see the big letters are there, but if I click somewhere else, you'll see it's converted automatically to small letters for me. I'm going to press escape so that I don't save any changes to the data, but I do want to save this particular change that I made. So the format is less than symbol. Okay, great. So that's the table done. Let's move on to the form. Now we're going to create a form called visitors info based on the visitors info table. So we're going to create a form. So there aren't any forms here. So let's go to create a form. And I want to use the form Harry Potter or form wizard. So we're going to use the form wizard and we're going to use which field? So we want to use the visitors info table. So we're going to select the visitors info table. And we want which fields? We only want visitor, gender, email, country. Oh, we want a lot of them. So visitor, gender, email, country. Let's go. So we want visitors, yes. We want gender, email, country. Those were the ones we wanted. We don't want number of people, number of days, deposit. Number of people, number of days, deposit. So you see how I selected just the ones I wanted by clicking on that. If you made a mistake, you can click on one and just send it back. Or you can select all of them and send some of them back. So there we go. We've got the fields we want. Next. What do they else they want? Do they specify anything about how it must look? It doesn't look like they say anything about how it must look. So I'm going to go next. They don't specify this. They do give me a name though. They create a form. Do they say what its name must be? Okay, that doesn't give me a name, but normally you give it a name of something, FRM something. So I'm just going to do that just for my sake, just so I know that it's a form. And we're going to finish it so we can open it up in the form. So there we go. So we can see this, so we can edit it, because we're going to have to do some edifications here. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to do that. We're going to insert some stuff here. So let's have a look at what we can do here. So there we are in the normal view. This is what it looks like. We're going to go to the design view so we can make some changes. So let's look at what changes they want to make. So first of all, we've done that part. Actually, they did give a name for it, visitors info. We'll change the name back to that later. But let's say they want to insert an image for wildcoast.jpg in the center of the form header. So let's go to our form. There's our form header, and we want to insert a picture. So you can insert a picture either from here. You see they've already listed one there. That's great. Or you can come over here to these options, and you can see there is that's an image as well. You could also click on that and drag on it and then follow the wizard about what image to insert and stuff like that. So you can do that option. So it'll come up with a box with asking you which ones do you want to insert and so on. But they've also said that you can, that's the image there. They've actually, we have it right here for insert image. So we can use this one as well. So I'm going to use that one. So we insert the image. There we go. And they want to make sure that the image is centered. Okay, so we want to make sure that this image is centered. It looks pretty centered, but just to make sure, what I'm going to do is let's just right click on it, and when in doubt, right click, go to properties, and you can see the details of the image. Let's see if there's something. Oh, picture is centered. So there we go. We can see that it is centered. If you want to change it, you can obviously change it there. So it looks like it is centered. I think it's happy with that. There's no other features or properties that we can use. That's all fine. So there we go. So we're happy with that. So there, it's centered in the form. Inserts the date and time. They don't actually say where we must insert it. So we just insert the date and time. So we're going to come here to our different formats and options here. We can go to form design. Ooh, there's a date and time option. We can click on date, time, and it will say, do you want to include the date, include the time, what format you want it, and so you can specify. They just say include the date and time, so we do that. And you'll notice that it adds it to the header. If by some chance you wanted that in the footer, then you could just obviously drag your footer, give yourself a bit of a footer, and then you click on the two options over there, and you can right click and cut them and paste them into your footer if they specify that they want them in the footer, but they didn't actually specify that here. Sort the country field according to descending order alphabetically. Okay, so how do we do that? So I'm going to click on here. I don't see any options about sorting it. So I've got a funny feeling we have to do some sort of filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the normal view, the form view of it. So we're over here. So here we've got our options for sorting. So I'm going to click on country, and I'm actually going to use, I think if we click on sorting it will work, but I'm actually going to use a filter. And if I click on filter, I'm saying, yes, I want countries to be sorted in descending order, which means Z to A. So I'm going to do it like that. I'm going to save it. So that's the filter. And we're going to go back to design view, because it is in, if we go back to the normal view, there we go. It is sorted. That's correct. So it's fine like that. And if I go here to the last bit, insert a button in the footer of the form. And that must close the form. Insert a button. Now, this is a very tricky little thing. So, yeah, you've got all these controls. Now, you make sure you get the right one. A lot of people think when they see these controls, they think that is a button. That is not a button. That's an option button. We want just a plain button, and that's the button over there. See, that's the one. If I move my mouse over it, you should see it say button. There we go. That's the one we want. Now, when we want they said they want the button in the form, in the footer, which is great. That's normally where you want your buttons. Click on the button, and we're going to drag it, or just drag it onto the form footer. And when we do that, a wizard should appear asking me what we want to do. And they said they want us to close the form. So that has to do something to do with the form operations. So if you can see all these lovely little options that you've got available, but we want a form operation. They are close form. That's the one we want. They don't specify anything else about what the button must look like. They just say they must insert a button. So you could obviously select the default options. You can choose a picture or change the text if they specify that. They've said nothing of the sort. So we just go next, next, finish. And now I've got a button there that will close the form. There we go, and make sure that you save it. And so I think we've done everything we need to do for that form. Obviously, the name I've changed. I actually need to redo that name. So I'm going to close the form. Make sure you close it before you rename it. And I'm going to right-click here and rename it and take that FRM out, because that's not what they actually wanted. It was just me trying to predict that they wanted that. Okay, so there we go. So we changed the name. So that's 4.2. Now let's do some queries. We're going to create a query called QRY females based on the visitors table. And it has the following information. So let's first go create a query based on query female. So I'm going to come here to create, and I'm not going to use query wizard. I'm going to just go to query design, and we're going to specify which table we want to use. So there you can see the tables are on the side here. I'm going to close this. Sometimes a box will appear here. So this box could appear in the front here, and you can select. So we want to base it off of the visitors table. So there you can see, so we want visitors table. So I'm going to click on visitors, and we're going to add the table. So visitors is added. There we go. If you need to add more tables, you can just click on the add tables there. Okay, so your box of add tables might appear there. And we want to display visitors and deposits. So I'm going to select field. I want visitors, and I want deposits. There we go. So I've got my two fields. Now they specify that we want to show all the females who paid a deposit of 3,200 or more. So under the deposit field, under criteria, we want it to be 3,200 or more. That means the criteria must be greater than equal to 3,200. Now the other criteria, they said they only want to show females. Now we don't actually have a field to show females. That is actually in the gender field. So I'm going to actually have to include gender as one of the options. I don't know what that field looks like. So let's just look at the visitors table. If we look at the visitors table, you can see that gender, it's the whole word female. Always look at the data, because it might be an M or an F. So you need to look at what the data looks like. There you can see gender says female. So I'm going to close this. So we want the gender field. The criteria for that must be greater than 3,200, and the gender field must be the word female. So there we go. So that's it. But remember, they said they just want to display visitors and deposits. We don't actually want to see the gender field. So when you do that, we can select that tick so that we do not show the gender field. We're still using it for our query, but we are not going to actually display it. So I'm actually going to click on it just so we can see if the results are correct. So let's view the results. There you can see they're all females and they're all above 3,200. And then I'll go back to design view. Let's uncheck the gender field. So when we go view it, there you can see it's just those two fields. Okay, so if you uncheck it, just remember if you uncheck it, there must be a criteria in that field for it to stay. If you don't put a criteria there, it'll actually take it away. So there we go. There we've got our query, and they said we must call it QRY female. So let's click save and call it QRY females. Okay, so there we go. That's our query done. One more to go. Then we're done. 4.4, we're going to open the query, so we're going to modify a query. So there's the query that we must modify. I'm going to click on it and go to Design View. So there we've got the query already. They said show visitors country deposit fields. Visitors country deposit. So we do not want to see the currency field. So I'll deselect that and use a function in the datasheet view to display the total amount of visitors. So actually, we can actually just take this field away. They don't even want us to have a criteria on it. So you could technically just cut it if you wanted to. So there we go. And now they said this little part here. Use a function in the datasheet view. They told me where to go to display the total amount of deposits of all the visitors from Russia. Okay, so we want all those from Russia. So technically, if I go here to datasheet view, we want all those from Russia. So we want the total. So how do I get to totals? So I need to find some sort of way of doing a total option. So if I see, oh, there's a totals over there. So let's click on totals here and see what happens. And then we've got this little thing at the bottom that appears. Now we want the totals, and they said they want the total amount of deposits. Total amount, but that's, so that we got total deposits. Let's click on the deposit field. We can select different options, and they, by default, it's the sum. We could have worked at the average or the maximum. We want the sum, but we only want those that are Russian. So let's go. So you can see we only want the words that are Russian. So I'm going to go back to Design View, and I'm going to make the country criteria Russia, so that it only displays Russia. So let's go back to the view. There I can see all the Russia, and there you can see the total deposit. It says 1250. Is that what they didn't give me an example, but there we go. So that's what they wanted to look like. They want to see only the Russian countries, and they want a little total at the bottom for the sum. Remember, you can select which option you want. So we wanted the sum. There we go. And then make sure that you save your query, and then we're done. So that's the end of the database question. Go to our playlist to see more videos on Access. You can revise all the stuff there. Look for the Access database playlist. Leave a like, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, don't do it the long way. Do it the Mr. Long way.